Christianity's global footprint is staggering, but most people have no idea where the real centers of power are anymore. Forget everything assumed about where Christians actually live, because the map has been redrawn in ways that would shock the average American churchgoer. We're talking about nations with Christian populations so massive they dwarf entire continents. Some of these countries have been flying under the radar for decades, quietly building congregations that rival the populations of major Western nations. From ancient Orthodox strongholds to explosive Pentecostal movements in places nobody expected, the numbers tell a story that challenges every assumption about modern Christianity. The 10th spot alone will make people question what they thought they knew about global faith. Number 10, Italy. Italy lands at number 10 with approximately 50 million Christians, which makes perfect sense considering this is where the Vatican literally exists. Rome isn't just a city, it's the administrative heart of global Catholicism. The Pope lives here. St. Peter's Basilica dominates the skyline. Religious art and architecture define every major Italian city. Catholicism saturates Italian culture so thoroughly that even non-practicing Italians identify as Catholic. Baptisms, First Communions, and Catholic weddings remain standard even among families who never attend Mass. It's cultural Christianity, taken to its logical extreme where the religion shapes identity, regardless of actual belief. But Italy faces a crisis: declining attendance and aging congregations. Young Italians increasingly view the church as irrelevant to modern life. Yet the numbers remain high because leaving the church officially isn't something most Italians bother doing. Number 9. Germany. Germany clocks in at number 9 with approximately 56 million Christians, which might seem low until remembering this is where the Protestant Reformation literally started. Martin Luther nailing his complaints to a church door in 1517 didn't just split Christianity, it rewrote European history. Germany became ground zero for religious upheaval that would reshape the entire Western world. Today, Germany's Christian population is split almost evenly between Catholics and Protestants, a direct result of centuries of religious tension and eventual compromise. Northern Germany skews Protestant while the South stays Catholic, creating a religious fault line that still defines the country. But here's the kicker: church attendance has been dropping like a rock for decades. Official membership numbers stay high because of the church tax system, but actual belief and participation tell a different story. Empty pews are becoming the norm, yet the cultural impact remains enormous. Christmas markets, Easter traditions, and religious holidays shape German life whether people attend church or not. Number 8. Ethiopia. Ethiopia takes the 8th spot with around 67 million Christians, and this East African nation has a Christian history that predates most of Europe's conversion. Ethiopian Christianity traces back to the 4th century, making it one of the oldest Christian traditions on earth. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church developed in near isolation for centuries, creating practices that seem alien to Western Christians. Their churches are carved from solid rock. Lalabella's 11 monolithic churches were literally chiseled downward into the ground during the 12th century, creating architectural marvels that still draw pilgrims today. Ethiopian Christians maintained their faith through Islamic expansion, colonial pressures, and communist persecution. Nothing could shake their devotion. The Orthodox tradition dominates, but Protestant movements have been growing rapidly since the 1990s. Pentecostal churches attract younger Ethiopians with contemporary worship styles that contrast sharply with ancient Orthodox liturgies. Ethiopia proves Christianity isn't just a Western export. Number 7. Democratic Republic of Congo. The DRC slides into 7th place with roughly 95 million Christians, and this Central African nation represents something most Americans never consider: Africa's explosive Christian growth. Missionaries arrived in the late 1800s as European powers carved up the continent, and what started as colonial religion became something entirely different. Congolese Christianity evolved into its own beast, blending traditional beliefs with imported theology to create vibrant, uniquely African expressions of faith. Pentecostal and charismatic movements exploded across the country, turning the DRC into a hotbed of enthusiastic Christianity that makes Western churches look sleepy. The Catholic Church also maintains a huge presence, running schools, hospitals, and social services across a country where government infrastructure barely functions. Christianity in the DRC isn't just spiritual, it's survival. The faith provides community, support, and hope in a nation that's faced unbelievable hardship. Number 6. Russia. Russia sits at number 6 with roughly 105 million Christians, which feels like a plot twist nobody saw coming, especially after decades of Soviet atheism trying to stomp out religion like a bad habit. The Russian Orthodox Church went from underground operations to reclaiming its position as a cultural powerhouse. But here's where it gets interesting. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, it was like someone flipped a switch. Suddenly, baptism skyrocketed, church attendance exploded, and religious education became normal again. By the early 2000s, new churches were popping up across the country at a rate that made Western observers do double takes. The Russian government even started cozying up to the church, using Orthodox Christianity as a way to rebuild national identity. Putin himself has been photographed at church events more times than most politicians would dare, making it clear that being Russian and being Orthodox are increasingly intertwined. Number 5. Nigeria. Nigeria storms into fifth place with roughly 105 million Christians, and this West African powerhouse represents the future of global Christianity, whether the West realizes it or not. Nigeria's Christian population is concentrated in the southern regions, creating a religious divide with the Muslim majority north. Nigerian Christianity is loud, charismatic, and growing explosively. Megachurches attract tens of thousands to services. Prosperity gospel preachers draw massive followings. Christianity here isn't declining like in Europe, it's booming. Nigerian pastors plant churches across Africa and even export their brand of faith to Western nations. The country's Christian growth shows no signs of slowing. High birth rates mean Nigeria's Christian population will likely exceed 200 million within decades. Africa is becoming Christianity's new center of gravity, and Nigeria leads the charge. Number 4. Philippines. The Philippines holds down the fourth spot with around 107 million Christians, and this Southeast Asian nation is basically the poster child for what happens when Spanish colonization meets enthusiastic local adoption. Catholicism didn't just take root here, it exploded into something uniquely Filipino. We're talking about a country where Easter celebrations include actual crucifixions, and entire cities shut down for religious festivals that last days. Spanish missionaries arrived in the 1500s expecting resistance, but found populations surprisingly receptive. Fast forward 5 centuries, and Christianity is so embedded in Filipino culture that separating the two is basically impossible. The country is over 80% Christian, making it the largest Christian nation in Asia by a landslide. Filipino Christianity is loud, proud, and incredibly visible. The Feast of the Black Nazarene in Manila draws crowds so massive that people have literally been trampled trying to touch the statue. This isn't passive faith, this is all-in devotion. Number 3. Mexico. Mexico grabs third place with a staggering 129 million Christians, and this North American nation is Catholic to its core. Spanish colonization brought Catholicism in the 1500s, and the religion fused with indigenous beliefs to create distinctly Mexican expressions of faith. The Virgin of Guadalupe became more than a religious figure, she's a national symbol appearing everywhere from churches to tattoos. Mexican Christianity is colorful, emotional, and deeply tied to family and community. Dia de los Muertos blends Catholic and pre-Columbian traditions into celebrations that honor the dead with altars, food, and flowers. Faith here isn't quiet or private, it's public and passionate. But change is coming. Protestant and evangelical movements have been gaining ground, particularly in southern Mexico. The religious landscape is shifting, though Mexico remains overwhelmingly Christian. Number 2. Brazil. Brazil takes the silver medal with approximately 175 million Christians, making it the largest Christian nation in the southern hemisphere. Portuguese colonization brought Catholicism, which dominated for centuries. Brazil became synonymous with Catholic culture, home to the massive Christ the Redeemer statue overlooking Rio and some of the world's most spectacular religious festivals. But Brazil's religious landscape is transforming rapidly. Evangelical and Pentecostal movements have exploded over recent decades, converting millions of Catholics and reshaping Brazilian spirituality. These churches offer emotional worship, contemporary music, and messages that resonate with working-class Brazilians seeking hope and community. Some megachurches attract crowds so massive they rival soccer stadiums. This evangelical surge is changing Brazilian politics and culture. Religious conservatives increasingly flex political muscle, influencing everything from education to social policy. Brazil's Christian population isn't just large, it's increasingly diverse and powerful, representing multiple competing visions of what Christianity should look like in the modern world. Number 1. United States. The United States claims the top spot with around 210 million Christians, which might surprise people who assume Christianity is dying in America. Despite declining church attendance and rising numbers of religiously unaffiliated, the absolute Christian population remains massive simply because America itself is huge. Over 60% of Americans still identify as Christian in some form. American Christianity is spectacularly diverse. Catholics, Baptists, Methodists, Pentecostals, non-denominational megachurches, and countless other groups compete for souls and influence. This fragmentation creates a religious marketplace where churches must adapt or die. Some embrace contemporary worship and casual dress codes. Others double down on traditional liturgy and theology. The religious right wields enormous political power, shaping Supreme Court decisions and electoral outcomes. Christian nationalism surges in some circles while progressive Christianity grows in others. American Christianity is simultaneously declining in cultural dominance and remaining incredibly influential, a paradox that defines modern American religion. But here's what nobody talks about. These rankings are temporary. Birth rates in Africa and Asia are exploding while Western Christian populations age and shrink. Within 30 years, the top 10 list will look completely different. Nigeria could surpass the United States. The DRC might break into the top 3. China's underground Christian movement, if it ever goes public, could instantly claim a top spot with estimated populations reaching 100 million or more. The global center of Christianity is shifting south and east so rapidly that Western churches are scrambling to understand what comes next.